When a woman learns to master her emotions and reconnect with her true worth, she no longer begs for love, should we? She awakens it. And the best part, she doesn't have to chase it. Love comes back on its own. No, this isn't magic. This is psychology. Do you know this feeling, sister? That feeling of being replaced like an old piece of furniture without closure. But listen closely. This is not the end. It's the beginning of a new version of yourself. Because what you do now in this moment of emptiness will determine whether you degrade yourself or are reborn. Most people make the same mistake. They send messages as if the phone were an extension of their dignity. They plead, justify, humiliate themselves. And with every desperate attempt, they lose value. It's like trying to extinguish a fire with emotional gasoline. Sound familiar? Don't worry, you're not alone. But now is the time to change the rules of the game. You'll discover why silence, detachment, and personal rebirth are not just simple advice. They are real weapons, both psychological and emotional. And no, you don't need to become a guru or read 100 self-help books. All you need is courage. The courage to act differently, because the woman who stops begging for love is the one who starts generating it without saying a single word, just through her presence. Stay until the end, because this video is not for emotional beggars. It's for women who are ready to transform into such an authentic, powerful version of themselves that even the past stops and looks back twice. And listen carefully. This is not about him. It's about you. About your return to your center, about reconnecting with your true self, because the very moment you stop needing him, he begins to need you. Lesson number 1, the power of emotional silence. It's that silence that speaks louder than 1,000 desperate messages. Have you ever felt that the more you talk, the less you are heard? Let me tell you something, sister. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is strategy. When he left, you probably did what many do. You reached out, asked for explanations, begged for one last chance. But all that noise only served to confirm his decision to leave. Do you know why? Because that noise screams desperation. And desperation, sister, is the most repellent perfume a woman can wear. Now listen carefully. When you choose silence, you don't disappear. You leave a deeper mark. Emotional silence is not giving up. It's stopping the nourishment of a fire that only burns your own energy. And when someone is used to your constant presence, your messages, your availability, then the absence begins to weigh more than any accusation. Then he begins to wonder, why isn't she reaching out? Doesn't she need me anymore? Could there be someone else? It's like walking through a noisy street every day. And suddenly, complete silence. What do? You stop. You feel something is missing. That's how intelligent detachment works. It's not disappearance. It's creating such a strong contrast that the other person can't ignore it. The philosopher Epictetus said it clearly. First understand the meaning of what you want to say, then speak. In this case, first understand what your silence communicates and let him interpret it on his own. Because when you don't give explanations, he starts making up his own. And that, sister, is not a coincidence. It's emotional strategy. This is no secret to women who've learned to master their emotions. Do you know what happens when a woman who always responded instantly suddenly vanishes? She leaves a void, and human nature hates a void. Instinctively, we try to fill it. That man who used to ignore you without hesitation begins to sense that something has changed. You're no longer there to build him up. You're no longer applauding him, reminding him how special he is. And without realizing it, you become a constant thought, an unanswered question. Let me tell you the real story of a girl. She was blocked on all social media platforms. And what did she do? Nothing. She didn't retaliate, didn't cry on social media, didn't send messages, didn't beg, didn't send gifts. Total silence. What did she focus on? Herself. She focused on her body, her finances, her mindset. 2 months later, he came back with a pathetic excuse. I dreamed about you. That was no coincidence. That was the result of strategically used silence. Because silence doesn't just communicate, it creates. While she was silent, she rebuilt her self-worth. Rediscovered parts of herself she had forgotten because she had focused so much on him. And when you do that inner work, everything on the outside changes. Your energy shifts, your posture, your gaze. And that, sister, he feels even from thousands of kilometers away. Silence is not passivity. It is charged power, an emotional time bomb. Delete that urge to text him today. No good morning, no memes, no subtle hints, nothing. Make yourself emotionally unavailable. Delete him if you must, not to forget him, but to show yourself that you won't waste your energy on someone who doesn't value it. And while you do that, evolve. Every silence should be worth 10 steps of inner growth. Think about it. Every time you write to him, every time you explain, beg, plead, you're sending, even without words, a very clear message. I need you so much that I can't live without you. And that message, sister, is what repels him, because we all without exception desire what is hard to get, not what is served to us on a silver platter. Strategic silence is like a diet for the soul. Soul, in the beginning it's uncomfortable, painful, frustrating, but over time it makes you stronger, more centered, transformed. And this new energy does not go unnoticed. It's as if you're broadcasting on a new frequency, a frequency that silently says, I am complete from within myself. So stop trying to convince him with words. Let your absence become your loudest voice, because listen closely. The one who remains silent commands, the one who chases loses, and the one who grows quietly becomes unforgettable. Stop screaming in places where no one hears you. Start creating a silence so clear that it forces him to come looking for you. Lesson 2: reverse psychology without manipulation. Because when you pull away, he starts to move closer. Has it ever happened to you that he suddenly shows up just when you've emotionally detached? That's exactly where many fail. They think detachment means indifference, but in truth, it means influence. When you withdraw your attention, something happens in the male brain. You're no longer predictable. You're no longer always available. You become an unknown, and the human brain, especially the male brain, hates emptiness. Attention creates habit, and when you break that habit, when you're suddenly no longer there, he feels like he's lost something. Even if he can't put it into words, that is real reverse psychology. It's not about manipulating him. It's about showing through action that the dynamic has changed, that you are no longer emotionally in the same place. You're not ignoring him out of pride. You're doing it out of wisdom, because anyone who doesn't appreciate you when you're present needs to feel your absence without warning. It's like taking sugar away from someone who has drunk sweet coffee their whole life. At first, they don't understand what's missing, but they feel it. And even if they don't admit it, they miss it. The taste has changed. And that very shift, that tension, that contrast between what was and what is now activates something primal in the male mind. The hunting instinct. When something pulls away, when someone becomes inaccessible, our first instinct is to pursue, not out of weakness, but because we are human. And that instinct is even stronger in men, because evolutionarily they are programmed to chase what retreats, to conquer what seems unreachable. Marcus Aurelius said it wisely: the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. And what does that mean in this context? It means you won't degrade yourself. You won't beg, plead, or fight for validation like so many others. You won't respond with drama, but with focus, with a new version of yourself, a version he never saw coming. You're not reactive, you're strategic. And that calmness, sister, that unshakable composure throws everyone off balance. Reverse psychology works because it shifts something fundamental, the power dynamic. Think about it for a moment. When someone chases you, you hold the control. You decide whether to respond, whether to give attention, whether to be present or not. But if you were always available before and suddenly vanish, the control shifts, and now he's the one asking, where is she? Why isn't she writing? What's changed? That shift in energy is what creates closeness. Let me tell you another true story. A girl spent nights writing pain-filled poems, posting indirect messages, dedicating sad songs in her stories, until one day she went completely silent. She started going to the gym, focused on her business, and disappeared emotionally. And guess what happened? He already with another woman messaged her 2 weeks later with a harmless line. Are you okay? But that "are you okay" hid something deeper: unease in the face of her transformation. Because when you change, when you shift your energy, when you're no longer available, you create an imbalance, and humans always seek to restore what they can't control. That's addictive. So, true, no contact, no glances, no asking about him, no analyzing his stories. Live your life, reinvent your days, turn every minute without him into a stage of personal growth. Your distance is not indifference, it's repositioning. And this repositioning is not just external, it's internal too. It's a silent statement that says, I'm no longer where you lost me. You're reorganizing your thoughts, your priorities, your values. You're no longer the one waiting for a message. You're the one walking her own path. And that emotional independence is magnetically attractive. Stop trying to be remembered. Become someone unforgettable. Because when you change your energy, you change the game. And you are not here to be another option. You are here to be the woman who no longer begs, because now she's the one being chosen. Lesson 3. The power of emotional scarcity. What is rare is desired more, because what we can't have is exactly what fascinates us most. There's a rule that never fails. What is abundant loses value. This applies to money, time, and people. When you were always available, when you were the first to message, when you asked how he was, he got used to it. And what becomes routine is taken for granted. It becomes invisible. Think about it. Do you appreciate the air you breathe? Probably not, because it's always there. But if you've ever gasped for breath even for a few seconds, then you know its true value. The same applies to your emotional presence. When you're constantly there, you become part of the background. But when you break that flow, everything changes. Your emotional scarcity begins to trigger something in his mind, a chain of questions with no immediate answers. Why is she gone? What happened? Doesn't she love me anymore? And that whirlpool of uncertainty, that feeling of not knowing, is more powerful than any poem, any romantic message. Because now you're no longer predictable. You're a mystery. It's like a plant that was always green and suddenly withers. Only then does someone realize what they had. Or like the bread that always sat on the table. No one notices it until one day it's gone and suddenly everyone wants it. This isn't a game. It's a universal law, the law of scarcity. Economists know it, psychologists confirm it, and wise women apply it. When something becomes scarce, its perceived value rises immeasurably. And your attention, your energy, your love are no exception. Esco said it clearly. We don't appreciate what we have until we lose it. But listen closely. The truly stoic woman doesn't act to be appreciated. She acts to stay centered. She doesn't seek validation, yet her presence is noticed and her absence echoes. This principle goes far beyond love. It applies to all human interaction. Have you noticed? The most in-demand people, the busiest, the ones who are selective with their time, they are also the most respected. Coincidence? Certainly not. Their inaccessibility increases their value. A woman who used to be available 24/7, texting, calling, doing favors, was not appreciated until one day she'd had enough. She disappeared. Started posting photos of workouts, travels, and her personal growth. She didn't block him, didn't drop hints, didn't write bitter messages. She simply became unreachable. The result, he came back confused, insecure, searching for any excuse to reconnect. But it was too late. She was no longer there emotionally, and that was stronger, more impactful, and more brutal than any complaint. Do you see the pattern? Abundance creates indifference. Scarcity creates urgency. When you are constantly available, he could afford to ignore you. But when you disappear, when your emotional presence becomes rare, his mind starts racing nonstop. You're no longer a guaranteed access. You're a lost opportunity. And that sister creates a kind of restlessness that no pleading could ever evoke. Today, limit your availability. Don't reply right away. Don't be constantly reachable. Tune into yourself, but not to play games or use cheap tactics because you're busy building something greater. If he wants to know about you, he should make an effort to discover the new version of you. And remember, this isn't about faking scarcity or playing pointless emotional games. It's about the fact that your time, your energy, and your focus now belong to you. Your growth, your goals, your inner peace. When you truly focus on your development, emotional scarcity happens naturally because you no longer have time to beg for attention when you're busy building your inner empire. Being emotionally scarce is not coldness. It is wisdom. It's emotional intelligence in its purest form. Because while others chase, you walk calmly yet decisively toward your center. And that's not only noticeable, it's irresistible. Stop giving your energy away as if it had no value. Become so valuable that he can't ignore you, even if he tries. Personal rebirth isn't a trick. It's a necessity, a quiet urgency that cries out from your soul. Because if you stay the same, emotionally dependent, insecure, empty, then every attempt to reconnect won't appear as strength, but as desperation, just better disguised. But when you start to rebuild yourself from the pain slowly but without pause, something shifts. And that change is tangible. Even if he doesn't see you, doesn't talk to you, energy isn't sent through WhatsApp, it's felt. It's like a house that once lay in ruins, and months later, a magnificent structure stands in its place. Anyone who saw it destroyed can't help but stare in awe at what has been built there, and new. That's you. A complete reconstruction. Not just a surface image, but a rebuilding of your foundation, your self-worth, your dignity, your essence. Because this isn't about changing your appearance or posting inspirational quotes on Instagram. That's just emotional makeup. What truly matters is what can't be seen, the calm you now feel when you're alone, the strength you've built in silence, the parts of yourself you've rediscovered when you stopped revolving your life around someone else. Personal rebirth is an alchemical process. You transform the lead of pain into the gold of wisdom, and that can't be faked, rushed, or bought. It requires inner work, facing yourself, confronting your patterns, healing wounds, calming fears. But every step takes you further from the version that needed validation and closer to your most authentic self. As Seneca said, as long as you live, keep learning how to live. That is true rebirth, understanding that it's never too late to become your best version, and that pain was never your enemy, it was your teacher. A girl was left right after losing her job. She broke down, hit rock bottom, but she didn't stay there. She rebuilt herself, changed her body, learned something new, started her own project. A year later he came back, and do you know what she did? She thanked him, because without that breakup, she never would have woken up. He came looking for the woman he had left and found someone entirely different, stronger, more focused, unreachable. This is not an exception, it's a pattern, a path many have taken and one you can walk too. If you understand this truth, rejection is not the end, it is the beginning of something new. The pain of a breakup can become your greatest fuel for personal growth if you use it as gasoline, not as an excuse. And the most beautiful, the most liberating part is this: with time, you no longer care if he comes back because you realize you weren't seeking his approval. You were seeking your own. The true love you needed to rediscover was the one you had for yourself. Make a list today. What do you want to improve about yourself, your body, your mindset, your habits, your goals, and work on them every single day? Not for him, for you. Because when you become unreachable, people will seek you. And if they return, it won't be out of need, but out of admiration. Personal rebirth is the hardest path, but also the most rewarding. Because while many wait for a message, you wait for results. While others beg for attention, you cultivate inner strength. And that, sister, is the difference between the one who pleads and the one who chooses. Don't beg for a second chance. Rebuild yourself so powerfully that he wishes for one. And if he does, then you are the one who decides, because the woman who transforms doesn't ask, she chooses. Lesson 5, the trap of contact and the magnetism of silence. What he doesn't know about you drives him mad. After a breakup, many fall into the same trap, keeping in contact. They believe that if they stay close, stay present, show him their best version, he'll eventually realize what he lost. But here lies the mistake. Keeping in contact only does one thing: it keeps him comfortable. Because as long as he knows you're still there, just one message away, there's no urgency, no sense of loss, no value. And what is guaranteed, sister, is not cherished. Do you know what truly has power? Absolute silence. No blocking, no messaging, no reactions, just emotional disappearance. Because when you are no longer there, when your energy is gone, his imagination takes over. And the male mind, when it lacks information, starts creating stories. Is she with someone else? Has she moved on? Why isn't she reaching out? Has she forgotten me? This isn't indifference, it's desire in disguise. Attention masked as doubt. It's like a show that suddenly stops airing new episodes. What does the audience do? They get restless, search for spoilers, develop theories, become obsessed. The same happens when you vanish without explanation. You become the unfinished story. And sister, unfinished stories are addictive. The human mind is wired to complete patterns, to seek meaning, to fill in blanks. And when you cut off contact, no drama, no hints, just absolute absence. You create a space his mind will endlessly try to fill. And in that attempt, things are triggered in him that no message of yours could ever cause. Because when you are silent, his mind starts to speak, and what he projects in your absence is more powerful than any explanation. Silence is like a blank canvas, and he paints it with his fears, his desires, his regrets. Epictetus said it clearly. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. The same applies here. Don't explain your distance. Don't announce your disappearance. Don't ask permission to pull back, leave it. Disappear with dignity. Be silent with elegance. Because silence needs no justification. Silence works. A guy blocked his ex everywhere, on Instagram, WhatsApp, everything. And she said nothing. Not one attempt to win him back. No hints, no public tears, no begging, just silence, focus, just growth. Months later, he messaged her from a fake account. How are you? Coincidence? Definitely not. Pure psychology. Because when you deny access, you create obsession. What we can't have becomes our greatest desire. And this principle works because it touches something primal, something raw. The fear of irreversible loss. As long as you're there, reachable, he knows he can come back anytime. He has time, options, control. But when you vanish without a trace, no drama, no warning, his mind panics. The fear of losing you forever kicks in. And that fear is a more powerful motivator than any emotion. No likes, no how are you? No, I saw your story. Nothing, total silence. And while you're quiet, you must do something that justifies your absence. Learn, train, start a project, heal, grow. Because if you ever return, you can't be the same woman. You have to be a new version, one that leaves him speechless. This silence isn't passive, it's incredibly active. You're not waiting for him to come back. You're building a life so full, so vibrant, so completely yours that neither his presence nor his absence defines your joy. The one who chases creates anxiety. The one who disappears creates curiosity. And curiosity is the first step toward desire. Because as long as you're talking, you give him no space to miss you. But when you choose silence, he starts screaming on the inside. And never forget, magnetic silence is not a short-term tactic. It's not a strategy to win him back. It's a way of life, a state of mind where you no longer depend on his attention to feel complete. Because the woman who rebuilds herself in silence becomes unforgettable. The nights filled with tears, the mornings filled with fear, the days filled with doubt. All of it is part of the process. Don't deny it. Live it. Because every tear is a seed, every silence is an act of self-love, every day without contact is a quiet declaration, I no longer abandon myself for anyone. Do you know what the most powerful part of all this is? The moment comes when you're no longer pretending you are. You're not faking that you're okay. You truly are. You're not acting strong. You became strong. You're no longer thinking about how to get him back. You're focused on never losing yourself again. And that, sister, is true rebirth. Not the kind that's meant to impress him, but the kind that sets you free. He doesn't come back because you call him. He comes back because one day he realizes the woman he left no longer exists. And if he comes back, he no longer decides you do. Because the one who once begged for love is gone. And in her place stands a woman, whole, centered, and free. So the next time you feel like you miss him, ask yourself, do I really miss him? Or do I miss the version of me that lost herself for him? Remind yourself every single day you're not alone. You have yourself. And when you have yourself, you already have everything you need. Don't fear the pain. Fear staying stuck in it. Because pain that isn't transformed turns into resentment, but pain that is consciously processed becomes wisdom. Today isn't about how to get him back. It's about how to ensure you never lose yourself for anyone again. What you do with this pain will define your story, whether you break or are reborn as a woman who cannot be replaced. And if after all this he does return, it won't be to the same woman, because you won't be standing there with open arms and your heart in your hands. You'll be centered, strong, focused on your growth, your goals, yourself. And from that place of fullness, you'll have the power to decide whether he even deserves a place in your new life. So tell me, at what point in this video did it feel like I was speaking directly to you? Which sentence made you think, this is exactly what I needed to hear right now? Your story can inspire other women, women who today stand exactly where you stood yesterday.